Hello and welcome. In this video, I will introduce you to JavaScript objects. What are objects? In JavaScript, almost everything is an object. They can be compared to objects in real life, such as a car or a cup. An object is a standalone entity with properties and type. All values in JavaScript except primitive values are known as objects. Objects can also have methods. Methods are basically things that the objects do or actions that are performed on the object. Primitive values are not regarded as objects. So what are JavaScript primitives? A primitive value is a value that has no properties or methods. So a primitive data type is basically data that has a primitive value. JavaScript has 5 types of primitive data types, and they are a string, which is kind of like a text, example hello world, a number, any number like 4, 6, 3, 5 and so on, a boolean value. A boolean value is a value that is either true or false values. Null basically means the value is not known. That means there's nothing declared for that value. Then you have undefined. Undefined basically mean undeclared variables. For example, if you're trying to use a variable that you've not declared, that will give you an undefined result. So there's a key difference between null and undefined. Null means something is unknown. Undefined basically means you're trying to use something that you have not declared. By declared, I mean created. Let's take a typical example of a real life object like a car. So an object will have properties. So for example, a car can have properties like the name, the weight, the color. An object can also have methods. Methods basically are actions that are performed on an object or what an object does. For a car, for example, it could have methods like start, brake. You could also have one for stop and one also for drive. So if you want to refer to the properties of an object, you reference the object name. In this case, the name of the object is a car. So you say car.name, the name being the property, and the property must have a value. You are assigning a value using the equals to sign. So the name for this car property is Ford. The weight for this car property is that. And the color property for this car is this. So that's the format in which you represent objects, the properties in JavaScript. Let's take a look at an example of a typical JavaScript object. So you can define an object like this. So I've created a variable here called person. Objects, you enclose the property and the value in curly braces, so you can see, and then you separate each property with a comma. So this is a property called first name. The value is James. This is another property. That's the value. This is another property. That's the value. This is another property. That is the value. Notice that I've enclosed the values in quotes because they are regarded as string or text. That's the only way JavaScript can recognize them. You don't need to put quotes around numbers because JavaScript knows what numbers are. So you can represent everything in a single line. You can also have it represented in this format. So it depends on whichever way you want to represent it, but they both mean the same thing. Okay, so this is a typical example of a JavaScript object. So that is it for this video. In this video, I gave you a quick introduction to JavaScript objects. Thanks for watching. Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to give you a quick introduction to the various ways you can use to create objects in JavaScript. There are three main ways you can create objects in JavaScript. So if you want to create new objects in JavaScript, you can create them as a single object using an object literal. An object literal in JavaScript is basically a comma separated list of name value pairs. That means it will have a name, the value, and they will be wrapped in curly braces. So object literals basically are used to encapsulate data, okay, to make it neat and tidy. So that's one way. Another way you can create new objects in JavaScript is by using the new keyword. So you can create a new object by using the keyword new. These two methods are good for creating single objects. There's also a third way which can be used as a template to create multiple instances of an object, and that is known as an object constructor. So you can use an object constructor and then use that as a template to create instance of the same type of objects. So these are the three main ways you can create objects in JavaScript.